Guys, your daily update for MULN. What do we need to know? Sorry, there's a helicopter going over. Alrighty. So, here's the thing about the 251 last week that we talked about on Friday when it closed at 251 with AMC, or AMC in comparison to the 801 AMC. So AMC went below 801 but never closed below 801 after hitting that 801. We have obviously gone below and closed below 251 on MULN. But I don't expect to close below 251 on an option expiration day ever again. So that same pattern with AMC never dropping below, like the only day that actually matters for a stock price is the options expiration day. Every other day is basically the same. So another thing, if you compare the GME volume, the other videos I went over, you'll see that we hit just a new record low volume. And so that pattern is trending. What would have worried me today is if we did this much, if we did this same price action and we were at 100 million shares of volume. Because then that means that they're pumping the stock again with a lot of fake orders. And nothing really happened with the stock price, where when the volume spikes again, I'm expecting the stock price to go way up with the volume. And so tomorrow could be the day, or tomorrow could be another downtrend and we could hit a record low again of lower volume. So we hit 53 million, which is the lowest in the last 45 days of volume yesterday. Today we hit 40 million. Tomorrow could be 30 million. And like we moon on Monday type thing. So I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to be Monday. But I definitely know that next time the volume spikes, which is coming very soon, the price is going to spike with it. A little thing to go over the volume so you guys understand how volume works. Like, retail is not wealthy, okay? So retail has a limited amount of funds, and let's just say that $50 million goes into the stock market from actual retail investors, people that are deciding where their own money goes and all that good stuff. So it's like $100 for 500,000 people. Like, that's reasonable. And so what I'm getting at is, let's say there's $50 million of retail volume going in and only half of that's going to MULN. Let's say half of the market, half of the retail investors are smart enough to know where the real squeeze is. What's up with these helicopters? Anyways, where the real squeeze is. And so if you look back at MULN stock history, we had 20 million shares back at the end of February in the retail public float, and then it shot to 200%, and then they crashed it. 2 weeks later, it was at 180 million outstanding shares, and 150 million of it was retail public float now. So that means 130 million shares were bought, and that was done at a price of... So 130 million shares, that was done at a rough average price of $1.50. That's $195 million. And I believe that was over the course of, I think it was 2 weeks. So if we divide that by 10, that means there's $19,500,000 on average those 2 weeks going into MULN stock every single day. Then after that, we got an update when the price was probably an average of 270 for their dilution, that it went for the next 10 days. It was 270 times 60 million shares, because basically the outstanding increased from 188 million to 260 and some change million. And so there's roughly 60 million shares, and now that's 162 million, and that was also over a course of 10 days. And so there's about $16.2 million a day of retail volume going in. But that $16.2 million a day, if we divide that by the 2.70 per share, that's only 6 million shares being bought every single day by retail. So anything over that amount, like when you see 40 million shares of volume and you're like, oh, it's low volume, it's like, we've never as retail bought 60 million shares. Even when it did 500 million shares of volume, retail did not buy 60 million of those shares. Okay, so we're averaging consistent, and that's why you're seeing a slow and steady increasing price. Now, basically, they had 60 million more shares to do what they've done with the last 2 weeks, and now it's 3 weeks. Tomorrow will be 3 full weeks, and it's been an average price of 240, and so it'd be 60 million more shares times 240 is 144 million more we'd had to buy in the last 3 weeks. And it is my assumption that we have already bought $144 million worth of shares, and that they had 30 million authorized, or 30 million that were insider shares. And it would not surprise me to hear when they do announce that that has been lowered to 20 million, and they added another 10 million shares to sell to us. And so basically what I'm saying is their dilution's running out. We're about to rip very heavy, and yeah, life's gonna be good. So that's how you understand volume. That's why you shouldn't be upset about the low volume, is because like it fits the pattern with the squeeze for AMC, the squeeze for GME. Both times the volume just plummeted, and then all of a sudden it skyrocketed with the price. So yeah, I mean, the fact that the volume's still going down today only reaffirms that we're still in that pattern. And even though it's not happening exactly the same, everything's still lining up so close that it seems like the squeeze is inbound. And again, I really do hope it's tomorrow. If it's not tomorrow, anyone, like, there's over 200,000 contracts that expire tomorrow, and there's 400,000 total option contracts on the MULN chain. But like, you shouldn't be like, oh, there can't be no gamma now if there's only 200,000 left. If you go look at all these other stupid stocks that they're pumping, whether it's ATER, SST, really any of them. I mean, there's a couple good option chains out there like AMC and BBIG, but there's other problems with those that I don't really want to get into. Those are not squeezing. MULN's the only squeeze. And what I'm getting at is that if you look at the option chain, it's still super heavy. I mean, back in March 14th, the option chain didn't have more than 100,000 contracts. And so even with tomorrow's 200,000 option contracts expiring, we're still double the contracts we had back on March 14th. And so nothing to be worried about. Everything's perfect. Money's coming for sure. That 200,000 option contracts that expire today or tomorrow, their probably buy-in purchase was a total probably around like $10 million worth of volume of actual retail money that's going to get lost if it doesn't spike tomorrow. And so what I'm getting at is, like, the only reason the stock price hasn't already mooned is because, like, a short report came out on it, and David Mickery, the CEO of MULN, has not responded to it. And my biggest issue with that is that the short report went over the fact that they didn't have the money to fulfill orders and obligations in the past 6 to 12 months. And it totally overlooks the last 2 months where they have raised at least $200, if not $400 million for MULN Automotive to operate its business. And so everything in that report that may have been a problem is no longer a problem. And MULN insiders are actively suppressing the stock price in order to, it appears, to beat these options. And I imagine that we'll moon on Monday if we don't moon tomorrow. And so there's $10 million worth of damages. I'm hoping that a lot of people that are following me are, I mean, I'm not happy that you might lose money, but I hope that you have some of your money in these damages. And I'm going to be working with the lawyer to file a lawsuit, and I'm going to try to make it a class action lawsuit and create a document where people can basically submit their personal information, investment information, and trades that they made and lost money on. And then on top of that, submit to like a class action, or at least submit to where I can represent you and your interests through this lawsuit to a law firm. So basically, I'll be like the head of the class action lawsuit, and it'll be like basically, like my intention right now is everybody gets refunded 100x their investment. So if you put in $10,000 and it expired worthless, then you get $1 million back. And if they don't do that, then I want to demand to my lawyers that, and it's not necessarily like I don't have lawyers right now, but I'm going to find lawyers, and it's going to be that they have to push to a trial jury, and we will take a jury's verdict of how much we're owed over settling for less than 100x our money. Yeah, I mean, we still got money for next week, and Monday's the day. Like, if it's not tomorrow, then Monday's the day. It's going to be huge. It's going to be massive, and there's nothing to worry about. I will be providing more information on how to participate in a lawsuit if you have losses, and I guarantee that you will win money. There's nothing more illegal than what's happening with MULN. This is worse than what they did with AMC. At least with AMC, they announced their dilution. They announced how much capital they had. They announced that they were paying off their debts. They were announcing everything as it was happening. For MULN, we just had nearly 2 months of fucking silence. They've been making money. They've been collecting money. Insiders been taking profits. MULN been raising capital. They've been spending money. They've been paying off debts. And they haven't told us about any of it. It's wild, people. This is unheard of. And so that's where my head's at. Basically, when it moons on Monday, if not tomorrow, like I'm going to be going, like it's going to go way up, it's going to go way down, it's going to go way up, it's going to go way down. I'm going to make 2, 3, 4, 5x on my money every single time after I make the 100x on my money on my next week to expire options. So I'm going to make 100x when it runs to $10, $20. And then when it starts to fall, I'm going to make a lot more money on my money. And then when it goes back up, because they're trying to shake people out, it's going to go over a course of a couple weeks of a squeeze. And that's where you make the real money. Like after the squeeze starts and you know the squeeze has started, that's when you know to play the volatility. And that's when you start multiplying your X's and just making a fortune of money. So as long as you still got something in this after tomorrow, you should have no worries that millions of dollars are in your future, especially if you're following what I'm doing. Good luck, people.